Okay, with in terms of Bland and Clowney, we're working with those guys today. We'll see where they are. They look so good so far this week, but really no promises either way on those guys. We'll see and evaluate for the next couple of days. In terms of the last game, really, disappointed in the performance. In a few plays, I thought our guys played well in the run game, but we got to have better discipline with our eyes, in our coverage. And we've worked hard at that during the course of the week, and we'll continue to do that. Again, these guys are 3 games into it, and it's a long season, and we're working hard with the defensive backs, with the pass rush, to get those things going as we go forward. And the guys are working hard at it. Guys are doing a great job of communicating this week, really good. We're doing extra sessions together. We're doing extra throughout the course of the week. Just to make sure that it is airtight. And, that's job with the coaches, job with the players. And, we got to do a better job there, obviously, so we're going to work on it extra. And the guys have done a good job so far, and today's another day, so we got to just keep stacking days as we get the preparation here for Green Bay.
Calvin Watkins.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. We've had this discussion with you about communication on the back end. Why do you think it continues to happen with you guys?
It's a play here or there, so it's got to be 100%, so it's important that we do it every single play, and it's important that we are consistent, with it, and that's the biggest thing when you have communication throughout the course of an offense or defense or special teams, it's got to be consistent, and it's got to be, it's going to be loud this week. We got to make sure that we're on point there, and just consistency.
Can simplifying things help in this manner?
Yeah, I think you do one word things that mean, the whole call. I think that helps out, and we're doing some of that, and the guys are really buying into that, and I think that's important that the guys hear a word, because when the team's on the ball, goes fast or whatever that may be, they understand the whole call.
Todd Archer with ESPN. You mentioned guys buying in. How much are guys? How much do you believe guys are buying into what they're being taught, what they're being told?
I really can only evaluate what's on the practice field. So if you were at yesterday's practice, it was one of our better practices of the year. In terms of our execution, the communication, the hustle. It was physical. Wednesday pad practice. So that's all I can really do is evaluate that. So it looked good yesterday.
And so when it gets to the game, why doesn't it carry over at times?
Yeah, I just think it's growth. Growing. Like we said, it's we have played 3 games. These guys are in a new system, and I think it's just growth. It's just a maturation of the defense, and I think the guys are doing a good job with that. Has it been where we want it to be so far? No, it hasn't. Have we been disappointed sometimes? Yeah, we have. But it's important that we just stay consistent, stay in the process, evaluate the performance on the practice field, make the corrections, and then make it better too, as we go forward, like we said.
You never really had him, but how much do you think this defense misses Micah?
We don't. You really can't dwell on the past. You really can't. I know that there's a lot of talk or chatter out there about that, but to me, it's our eyes are forward. We have guys in the building that we're coaching. Guys are working their tail off, and we got good enough pass rushers.
Nick Harris for Star Telegram. Juanita Thomas rotated in late in the game. Thought rationale behind that, and if he could get some more snaps.
Yeah, I think that was just somebody got dinged up. I think Hook got dinged up for a couple of plays, had to come out for a few plays, and then he was in there. He did a nice job. He made a couple of plays in there, but I think that's what it was.
With Deron Bland, if he is cleared for Sunday, is it as simple as him slotting right back into that slot nickel spot, or is there some, opportunity for him to be on the outside as well?
You want me to give away secrets? Right. And you're wearing green. Okay. No comment.
With Mozzie Smith, him getting on the field in week 3, what did he do in practice last week to be able to get that opportunity?
Mozzie did a nice job. He was solid in there. With Mozzie, he knows that it's about the consistency of doing it every. I'm talking about getting off and attacking the attack front and doing that every single down. And he's working to improve, and he got better. He worked his tail off when he wasn't up for the game, which I commend him for that. He kept his head down and worked. So he earned that spot, and we'll see where it is this week. Jay's doing a good job as well, in the run game and getting off on the ball, and really nice job for a rookie as well.
Joe White, Dallas Morning News. When you've had back-to-back weeks like you guys have had, how do you balance kind of staying the course versus saying, oh, hey, this is not working, maybe I got to do some radical changes here?
Just like anything, you look at what you did well, right, and you continue to do that, and you commend the guys for doing that. Work on the skill, work on the technique, and the same thing with the things that weren't well, that were bad, or under the performance or under the standard. So we got to do a great job with that. What can you improve on? Where are my eyes? Why are my eyes there? Do it in the walkthroughs, do it in the practice, and that'll translate to the game. And that's what our guys have been focused on. Alignment, assignment, key technique, every single play, even wired in a walkthrough, and making sure that the coaches are on that, and making sure the players are on that too.
You guys have had 3 sacks through 3 weeks, none last week. Is it as simple as, hey, you guys need to blitz more?
That would be a simple answer, right? But blitzing's good, right? But it's also, rushing forward and dropping, the rest of the guys is good too, So you got to mix it, you got to match it up, you got to, it's based on protections, based on the offense's look, so you do have to marry those together.
Ed Werder, WFA. Have you had to make, you've coached successfully defenses here and elsewhere. Are the changes you're making now in terms of simplifying things you've had to do in the first year in other places you've been?
Yeah, you do certainly have to do that. You're always tweaking and moving things around. I think that's important for the players. What do the current players you have, what can they understand, what can they do, in terms of the verbiage. And you're always talking about that every single week. You're always talking about that. You can have, tags on the front, on the back, all those things for different things. But you got to make sure that execution is the most important thing, So you're always moving that around. You're always moving that around, and you want to do what's best for the execution part. And we have to do a better job.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. Matt, you faced Jordan Love 3 times. The Bears, Jordan Love had success last time he played Dallas. A lot of those guys still on the roster. Kind of what are your thoughts on him entering this week, especially considering he's been pushing the ball downfield?
Yeah, that's what their offense is, right? They push the ball down the field. They're hunting shots all the time, and that's what Matt does a great job of that. Really good offensive coordinator, one of the best in the league, and so that's their offense. And then couple that with a talented quarterback that can push the ball down the field, very strong arm, accurate, very elusive in the pocket. Can get out and run as well when he needs to. So it's a big challenge.
What are your thoughts on Josh Jacobs, their Pro Bowl running back?
Yeah, he's done a good job this year. Wonderful job last year. Obviously, he was leading at the tops of the league in explosive plays. Using them in different ways, in the passing game, downhill runs, outside runs, which is, different than what he used to do when he before, So I think they're using him, in a good spot and using his skill level.
Donovan Ezraku showed a lot of pass rush moves in college, a lot of ability to kind of be versatile in that regard. Hasn't had a sack yet. What have you seen kind of from him as he's developing into the NFL game?
Improvement. I've seen improvement from the first game to the second game to the last game. He's getting better and better and better in the system, in our style, and he's improving. And really ask the question, what is he improving on? Well, he's doing a really good job of working on the edges. He's getting closer and learning how to rush in this league, and I'm excited about his future.
Learning how to rush, does that involve just maybe kind of developing more counter moves in addition to the moves he's already had? And if you get stopped in the first, get the second
learning in the rush to rush in the NFL is really 2 basic things. You learn what works for you, right? And then you learn what your counter is, but then you also have to really study the guy you're rushing against. So those are 2 things that you got to really put your time and attention to, and he's doing that now.
Tommy Arsh, DallasCowboys.com. Jadeveon was saying yesterday that as he's watching some of the younger guys, he said sometimes maybe they halfway finish rushes and don't get all the way. Maybe that's why they're struggling to get some pressure. Would you agree with that assessment? And if so, what's the coaching point to get them to finish all the way through?
Yeah, just getting your hip through, right? Getting your inside arm through, and then really just run, reach at the end of it is the basic of it. But, we do a good job of not hitting our own quarterbacks, so we got to make sure we don't do that. So we want to get close, right, and turn the corner and burn the edge. But in practice, you got to do a really good job. But it's really those 2 fundamentals.
Calvin, how would you assess how your linebackers been playing? so far this year? Because we always talk about the zone, we talk about the safeties and your corners, but how are your linebackers handling things?
Yeah, I think Jack has really played the run well. I thought he did a nice job last week and the prior weeks as well. He's really doing a good job, in command of the defense, understanding the offense, and then K9's, had a couple good weeks. Last week, he thought we could have done a little bit better, and that's really everybody. And but he's had some good performances and had some really good plays, and I'm excited about him going forward. He's one of the leaders of the defense, and he's out there making the calls. So he's improving. As he's been through game 1, game 2, and then game 3.
Has it been tough to get Leah Fowl a little more playing time?
We really like him a lot. Maris has done a wonderful job for us. He's a physical player, really good edge setter, in the run game. He plays downhill, has a really good knack for punching the ball and taking the ball away. So we're excited about where he is. The playing time will be based on the practices, and he's done a good job so far.
Go ahead, in the back.
Just coming from Chicago, having familiarity playing the Packers twice a year, what is that just experience? How do you carry that into Sunday's game?
Yeah, just being familiar with the opponent, how the operation is, what it looks like on game day. If you haven't played an opponent or a coordinator, you really don't know what it looks like in terms of them speed on the ball, the pace of it, and you don't know that until you get in there. You can look at the TV copies and call your buddies and all that stuff, but it's more importantly you have experience with it, and they do a good job of running their offense. They've been doing it for quite some time now, and they've been together a long time too.
And how vastly different is their scheme from being home versus away that you've noticed?
Not much. It's not much different. It's really the same. There's not much difference there.
Finish up with Nick.
There's a lot of things that defensive tackles do that don't show up in the stat sheet.
What was the first part?
There's a lot of things that defensive tackles do that don't show up in the stat sheet. Osa Digizua, how has he been able to do that for you guys?
He's been improving. He's one of those guys that has been improving as well. I think Kenny in there is doing a heck of a job in the middle of our defense. We got to continue to play well. Those guys have played well in there, including Mozzie, and then Solomon Thomas. Obviously, he's done a really good job, and he understands the attack front. He's played in it for quite some time, and he's really doing a nice job of playing the run, getting off on the football, creating a new line of scrimmage, and those guys in the middle have done a nice job.